What's up, everyone? Ray Lopez here again for Raylo Vapes. Today we are going to be talking about another tank. Yes, another tank. I keep getting these tanks. Hold on, let me adjust my microphone here. Started a little preemptive. I'm excited. Okay, so the tank that we're going to be talking about is right here. This is the Fogger V4 Plus version by, how do you say this? Yiloong is the company. This is the box that it came in. But this is, in my opinion, right now, and I know I said this about the AGA T7. I had some problems with the AGA T7. I shorted out some batteries. Could have been user error. I did have some leaking issues later on down the line. I might have been too preemptive going into that video. So I do apologize for that. But I did have a lot of people telling me, hey, what about the Fogger V4? What about the Fogger V4? You need to get a Fogger V4. Test it compared to the AGA T7. Now, the AGA T7, if you did see that video or if you're familiar with it, does have more airflow than a Kayfun. It was outperforming, in my opinion, a Kayfun, and I was really enjoying it until I was running into these issues. So it turns out that that one, even though this is the Fogger, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but anyways, it does turn out that the reason why it said 1.5 mil for the AGA T7, yeah, because that's really all you could put in there without it flooding. So that all aside, I bring you the Fogger V4 Plus. Why do I like the Fogger V4 Plus? Well, first off, airflow. Way more than any other tank I've ever had. There's 2 airflow holes on either side, and you have this little airflow control ring that you just spin to adjust. You can go all the way from sealed, where you get nothing, all the way to wide open, where you get quite a good amount of vapor production. Another thing I've been digging on this was amount of juice I can hold. If I'm correct, I believe this holds about 5 or 6 mils of juice, and it is stainless steel construction with the black coating on it, and black coating's been really strong. But anyways, before I go any further into why I'm liking this device so much, sorry it's been a while since I made the device review here, let's dip down into up close mode. We're going to take this thing apart, show you all the internals, how it works, how everything gets put together. All right, you guys, so stick around, and I'll be right back. All right, welcome to up close mode. Let's go ahead and take this thing apart. Here's the box that the Fogger V4 Plus comes in. Pretty basic. Let me take this out. All right, so it comes like this. The package, you get some extra O-rings, some wire, some silica, and these little clear O-rings, which I haven't quite figured out what those are for. I think these are for the juice flow, but I haven't really, they don't really fit. So then you get one of these little screwdrivers, just like the Kayfuns. Comes with a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver on either side, which I haven't really used, but that's what it comes with. Now, let's talk about what we're looking at here. Here is that Fogger V4 Plus in black. So let's go ahead and take this thing apart and show you how everything works on this. All right. So you have your drip tip, little black drip tip that comes with it. Very nice screws in here. You can see where it says this way, that way, Fogger. It says Fogger right there. You have your decent, pretty thick Pyrex glass tube, so you don't have to worry about what your juice is because you won't crack it. Then you have your chimney cap here. Just says Fogger. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit. There you can go. It just says Fogger. That's it. I believe the actual Fogger V4 .0 says Fogger 4, but the Plus does not say that. Let's see. Take off the chimney here. Chimney is also 2 pieces. We got these. This. Now you can see here is the deck, your build deck. It is much bigger than the original Fogger 4. So you have the nice big deck, and then the other addition that they did to this, which let me show you because there's this other ring here. I'll take this off, which is a big improvement because now you have full access to your build deck here. You could see the juice channels. You have 4 of those. These are now just vertical instead of before where it's like the L shape. And I believe the Fogger 4.1 also has the L shape with the smaller deck. I do like this better. It seems a little bit easier to build on. You look here, these 2 holes, it's kind of hard to tell just because it's black, but you have your 2 airflow holes right here, which feed down into this, which is your airflow control ring. I'll just take this off right now. So you can see there, you have airflow hole there, airflow hole right there. Pretty generous. I'm going to say probably 1.5 millimeters, maybe even 2. So you get 2 of those, and if you really wanted to have maximum airflow, you just take this whole airflow control ring off. It's also knurled and a little bit wider than the actual device. Makes it easier to fiddle with. So you have your positive and your negative right here. You build your coils on this side and this side, which of course I'll show you all this at the end of this video when I go into the build portion of that. All right. So yeah, that is, oh wait, before I forget. Down here on the bottom, you have your copper center post coming from your 510, which it does stick out just a hair. So it kind of sticks out above the 510, which is nice, especially now with a lot of these hybrid adapters and connectors, which is what I've been using with my Fogger V4 Plus. And yeah, this is your juice flow right here. All right, so that's it for close-ups. Let's go ahead and go back into regular mode and talk on it and vape on it. All right, so that was up close mode, and let's go ahead and dive into some of the details on what you get with the Fogger V4 Plus. I have heard multiple things where it was the 4.0, then the Plus, then the 4.1. Now I'm seeing there's a 4.2, a 4.3, 4.4. I don't know what all that means. All I know is this is the V4 Plus. So let me go ahead and read off some of the specs here for you so you know what we're looking at. It is a 22 millimeter device. The airflow control probably brings it up to about 23, but 22 where it comes to your mod, so it sits nice and flush on any 22 millimeter mod. And this is with the black Stingray with a hybrid adapter from Fusion Mods, which I think looks fucking sick. That's why I bought it. So anyway, so we got 22 millimeter device. It is a dual coil setup, so you get 2 coils. You really can't do single. I mean, you probably could do a single coil, but it's probably not going to perform. Excuse me. Quiet burp. Probably won't perform as well with a single coil as it will with a dual. So, okay, and then I was lying about this 5 to 6 mil. It is 4 mil, so I apologize. I need to look this stuff up before I start talking on video. It would make more sense, right? See what they're saying. Threading top cap, easy to assemble, disassemble. Yeah, I agree. Airflow control ring. Yes, real etched logo on the top cap and a laser printed on the chimney. Difference was, I do believe I bring this up in the up close or in the build section of it, but the original Fogger 4.0 actually said Fogger 4. This one just says Fogger. And you have an adjustable bottom pin, which is made of copper. Big plus. 510 thread. Bottom juice filling. Let's see. This was for the improvements of the 4.1, which I don't necessarily understand why they went back to the smaller deck on the 4.1. The Plus has the bigger deck, which I tend to like better, even though they say this one holds more wick cotton. That makes no sense to me. Anyways, upgraded threaded airflow control and copper pin. Yes, and it does come with atomizer. You get the wire, the wick, screws, screwdrivers, and O-rings. And yes, so that's all they say on the site I'm on, which is vaporcompany.com, but they are out of stock. I got mine on eBay. The person that was selling on eBay no longer has it, but I did pick this up for about, I think it was 28 bucks with free shipping on eBay. So hey, go ahead and go on eBay. Take your chances with eBay. Sometimes there might be some clones of these already. This is the authentic. Don't understand why they would clone something that's already about 27 to 35 bucks, which seems about the range that I've seen online. So for under 40 bucks, you get a badass Kayfun, just I'm gonna paraphrase what a customer told me at Vape Madness when I had first got this and they tried it. They tried it, looked at me, huge eyes, and said, "This thing shits all over any other tank out there." Kind of have to agree with them on that. I mean, this thing hits really well, has extremely good airflow. And I'm talking, I've tried modified Kayfuns, like the new Kayfuns that have the dual airflow setup, that have been modified with bigger holes and all that stuff. Still doesn't even compare to the airflow that you get with this. As you can see, this thing hits mighty nice. I've really had no complaints on it so far, and I have had this now for going on 3 weeks. I wanted to make sure I really enjoyed it and that I didn't mess up like I did with the AGA T7. So I apologize to anyone out there that did buy the AGA T7. I just didn't use it long enough to really be able to give you a good enough thing. I had it for about, 2 weeks. Just still wasn't enough time to try and figure out what was causing issues. I didn't have issues until later on. So this one I did go about 3 weeks before I decided to talk to you about it on YouTube, because I don't want to steer you wrong. I want you guys to trust my opinion. And in my opinion, I'm telling everyone to get one of these. So I know I kind of did a pros section earlier, but let's go ahead and talk about my pros and cons on this device in particular. So first off, pros. Airflow. The airflow on this, spectacular. There's not a single tank out there right now, bottom coil tank like this, at that price point or even higher. Even some of these $150 tanks, they don't compare to the Fogger V4 Plus. Tons of airflow. I mean, we're talking, I believe these are two 2mm airflow holes. It's pretty similar to a lot of drippers out there. I mean, I'm getting clouds on this like I would normally get on a dripper at about 0.5. So I can't really complain about that. I'm not like hurting for that draw like I get on, say, I don't have anything really close, but say like on the Stellar, the copper Stellar, you know, I have the airflow on there. I mean, of course, this is a little bit more than what I have on this, but of course, this is a 0.1, this is a 0.5. So airflow on that was pretty important for me, and it was still even vapeable at a 0.3 without being too hot. And you can build a 0.3 without any dry hits. Another pro. So you can go even further in the sub-ohm realm, which is great for us Met guys, where say like a Kayfun, you're kind of stuck around 0.8 is about the lowest you can go before it starts to dry hit and get those dry burns and ruin your wick, and you gotta take it apart and re-wick it. This, I went almost 3 weeks at a 0.5. It was about a 0.54 without even changing the wick. And I even had it like firing in my pocket for at least a minute or two when I was out on 4th of July and I didn't lock it. Dumbass move. And I still didn't have to change out the wick. Still didn't ruin it, even though this thing got boiling hot. So another plus. Another pro for me, might not be for you, is I love the way it looks. I love the black finish on this. It goes really well with any black mods that you might have, and just looks sleek. Sleek as all hell. I kind of like the black finish better than I like the kind of the matte brushed stainless steel finish that they have there. Some people have said that the other one kind of looks cheap. I don't think so. I think they look really nice and classy. I think looking at a Kayfun, those to me feel cheap because you're getting plastic tanks. You got to worry about what you're using, or you have to use a metal tank where you can't see your juice. I think this thing looks classy as all fucking hell. You have your logos, they line up nice. You have the glass tank, you have the fogger on the inside, all the etching and the work that's done on it. It's nice, it's sleek, it's not too much going on. The knurled airflow control ring. Looks wise, I give this thing 2 thumbs up. I'd give it 5 thumbs up if I had enough thumbs to do it, which I don't. So that's my thoughts on this pros wise. Cons is it is a little tricky to build if you're not used to building. So if you're new to building, you might have a little difficulty since there is no post holes. I would like to see post holes. It would make it a little bit more convenient when we're building these dual coils instead of having to wrap them around the screws and get all that down. Another con is I tried to build this with 26 gauge, and I'm sure it can work, but the screw head, since you have to wrap it around and screw the heads down onto the wire, would always push the 26 out. So you can't really go down to 26 without causing yourself a little bit of a headache, as I'd like to call it. Wicking on this can be a little tricky as well. So the build and the wick are very, very important to make this thing work as well as I have it working. A lot of people I've seen do it certain ways where they don't kind of stuff it down into the little juice channels. I like to put a little bit of wick in the juice channels, which you'll see if you stick around after this for the build portion of this. Show you exactly how I do it to get it working perfectly. I've tried it the other ways and I've flooded pretty much instantly. This way I don't get any flooding, unless of course I leave it in my car for a couple hours and it's hot outside, or elevation change. But that's normal with the kind of vacuum sealed tanks. The way that this works, if I didn't explain it, because I don't think I did, when you're inhaling on this style of tank, you're actually drawing the juice from your tank into the juice channels and up into your wick coil area. So you want to have it so the control is perfect, so you're not putting too much juice in there, but you're not putting too little juice in there to prevent yourself from flooding or hot spotting, which ruins vape, makes it completely unenjoyable. Okay, so that's pretty much the only cons I have on this. Is you just have to be a little bit more advanced on this build to really get it going perfectly. Kayfun's probably a little bit easier to build because it is just a single coil, very easy to wick. This one, there's a couple little things that you sort of have to do to get it to work great, but when it works great, it's flawless. That's why I'm calling this one, hands down, this is the tank killer. Any other tank out there I don't think is touching the Fogger V4 Plus. I can't really talk too much on just the Fogger 4.0 or 4.1 or the 4.2 or the 4.3 or the 4.4, which I guess have all come out now. I don't even really see much of a difference between all of those. The biggest difference I saw was with the Plus, and that's just you get the bigger deck, different juice channels, and the way that you put your juice in there is awesome. Oh, speaking of that, almost forgot. Filling this thing, awesome. Okay, so Kayfun, you need the needle tip. You need a blunt needle tip to go in there and put juice in without it backing up. This, you can use just your basic plastic dripper like this. You can use your other basic ones. Where is it? Is it this one? I think so. You can even use the blunt tip plastic, and you can also fill it with your glass bottle drippers. The way that works is it's kind of a pressure thing. So it's bottom fed. You put whatever you want there and you make a tight seal, squeeze, fills up. The con on that, because there's a pro to it as well as there's a con. The con on that is, since it is a pressure fed, since you're sealing it and then adding pressure to the tank itself, since the chimney is a little bit wider because you have the extra wide deck, so it's kind of thin here, so it fills this area a little bit quicker than it does down in here where it's nice and wide open. So what happens sometimes is when you're doing that, the pressure sends the juice into the chimney and then sort of draws it back down, and then it starts to leak out of the drip tip. But that's only when you're initially filling it. So be careful of that. Don't try and fill it up too quick. Take your time with it. Kind of squeeze and let it all kind of drain down. Squeeze, let it all drain down. And that's how you would fill this thing without getting it to leak. But even if it does leak a little bit, that's all it does. Once that's done, you vape on it. That goes away. You don't get any... There's no gurgling or anything, even though I did have a little leaking on this, which you'll see in the build portion as well. So I think I covered everything on that. I hope I covered anything. If there's any questions that you guys have, let me know. Comment in the comment section below. Hit me up on Facebook or Instagram, wherever you can get a hold of me. I'll try and answer everyone's questions as soon as I get them. So there you go, you guys. If you're going to stick around now to watch the build portion of this, right on, it's coming up. I'm going to try and cut that down so it's not too complicated, not too long for you guys. So again, thank you guys for watching. This is the Fogger V4 Plus. I'm Raylo from Raylo Vapes, and as always, vape on. All right, everyone. Thank you for sticking around for the build portion of this video, which is actually really important on making the Fogger V4 Plus work perfectly. So what we're going to do here is I have pre-cut 2 strands of 28 gauge Kanthal. I'm going to use my 5/64 Allen head screw or Allen wrench to wrap. Let's go ahead and do, let's say 5 wraps. Okay, Joe, I did change my mind here. I ended up going with 7 wraps. I think 5 wraps would have been a little too low. I want this to be, you know, mid-range. Even though this does have better airflow, it does get pretty hot when you drop down. I built this down to a 0.3, and it was kind of a little intimidating at that point. So let's go ahead and install these 2 little nifty coils and get to wicking. All right, so first thing we got to do here is unscrew, not completely, but back off our post screws here just a little bit. And the way that I always do this is figure out the way that you're going to tighten. So since we're tightening in this way, you want your wires to go in and wrap around in that same direction, because if you do it the other way, they tend to back off. And we want to line up these coils right around our air hole post, or airflow hole. Jeez, I can't talk right now. All right, so there's the first one. Let's go ahead and take this out and do the second one. All right, so same thing. We want to start it and make sure we're wrapping the wire the same way that we'll be tightening these screws. This is where it does get a little tricky to get these all going perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and screw these all down and then be right back. Okay, so we're back. I sort of situated the coils here. You can see we're firing at about a 0.55 roughly. So you can see the 2 coils, they're a little sloppy. I'm going to go ahead and clean them up a little bit and compress them down. But they're sitting directly over both of the post, or the, I keep wanting to say post holes, airflow holes, because that's where you want them. You want them to sit directly right on center with those. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this on my mod, fire it up, tighten up my coils, and be right back. All right, so let's go ahead and pulse fire these a little bit, get them hot, and compress them down just like that. All right, so you just do this a couple times until you get your coils nice and perfect, just like so. And let's go ahead and get to the wicking portion, since that is the most important thing to make this not leak and perform efficiently. Okay, so let's get to the wicking portion of this build. We have our cotton ball that I unraveled, cut off a little section of it, and we just pull off 2 fairly thin strands. You really don't need a whole lot. Actually, you really don't need much at all. I mean, this is minimal wicking. And I've seen a couple different ways that people have done this, and this is just the way that I've had the most success. I've tried it before where they just kind of put it in there and let it go, put the chimney cap on, kind of push it down. It didn't really work for me that way. So I'll show you how it's been working for me. Even all the way down to just 2 days ago, I went down to a 0.3 on this, and no dry fires or anything. It just worked flawlessly. But I kind of like it at around 0.5. 0.4, 0.5 seems to be about right. 0.3 was a little too warm for my taste, but it does handle it. So you can do it if you want. So we slid our cotton through, as you just saw. And like I said, minimal wick. We want almost no wick at all, which would be nice if we had a tank that actually could do that, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, so actually need to trim these down a little bit more. And one thing that I've been doing to kind of help that out is I'll take it and I'll cut it, see if I can show you, at an angle. Just like, you see what I just did there? You can see on this one how I cut it at an angle so it tapers. You want it to taper off. Now, am I putting too much work into this? Possibly. But this is just the way that I've found it to work the best for me personally, without leaking or anything like that. And I did make my build like this, and I did not change out the coils. I didn't mess with the wick or anything for probably going on 3 weeks, until just the other day when I decided I wanted to change it because I was about ready to do this review. Cut crap out of the way. Okay, so now we got super thin, tiny wicks. Might even still be a little too much, so let me trim it off some more here. There we go. That feels about right. So now let's get some juice and wet our coils. I'm going to use some of this blue gummy from thebrokeSmoker.com. And you just sort of pre-wet your wicks. Makes it a little bit easier to manipulate your wick into these little juice channels they have here. Like I said, there's been other reviewers that I saw doing builds on this, and they're like, no, you don't put anything into the channels. Anything into the channels is bad. You know what? I say fuck it, because I've tried it where it wasn't in the juice channels, and guess what? It flooded on me like a sumbitch. So this is what I do. I take it and I put just the tiniest little bit of wick into these juice channels. Not a whole lot, because then you'll clog it and you'll start getting dry hits. But I want enough to sort of slow down the flow of juice, because I noticed when it was just allowed to flow in freely, it would just flood out and leak. And that's the last thing we want in our tanks, right? Right. Okay. Almost done with this. This is where you got to take a little extra attention, care that you get this part right. You get this part right, you're going to have that Kayfun killing enjoyable vape. Okay, so that looks about right. Let me zoom in here and kind of show you what we're looking at here. So you can see just the tiniest little bit of cotton in those wells. Just a little bit. And you don't want it to run all the way down. Just enough to stop some juice from overflowing. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and put this all back together and go back into, well, you know what? Before we go back into regular mode, let me just show you how this thing goes back together. Alright, so we have our fogger. Let me take this thing off here now. We don't need it on the ohm meter. So take it fogger side up. Carefully place it down, because it does push onto your cotton. And screw this down. And I always kind of double check in here, make sure that we didn't mess up our cotton. Looks pretty good. And we have our airflow controls on. Put this little ring, and in this ring there is a big fat O-ring. You see that thing in there? That's what holds your glass on, prevents that from leaking. I'm going to screw that on. We need the top of our chimney. By the way, threads on this, all pretty good, except for this part. Kind of hard to get it on there that initial time. There it goes. Glass goes on. Top goes on that. Twist everything nice and tight. Let's see. Now, one thing I like about the fogger is you can actually spin it to adjust, so that way you have the fogger lining up with the fogger on your chimney cap. I don't know, just a little aesthetic thing here. So let's go ahead and take the screw off, fill this up. Okay, so unscrew here. And I did notice that I say we're gonna go talk about and vape on it. I confuse myself sometimes, all right? I do these beforehand. So here we go. We're gonna go with the blue gummy, which seems hard to see with the light, but whatever. Cool thing about the fogger compared to the Kayfuns. Kayfuns, you normally need a needle tip to fill up. This one basically goes off of pressure. So you could seal off even with just a plastic bottle like this one. Push it down and then just push it right on in. You see how it flows right in, no problem. Gonna get this thing nice and filled. And the pros and cons, I talk about this, but you can see here, it starts to come out of your 510 connection whenever you're filling it up with juice. That is definitely a pretty big con for me, but it's not that bad. You're really not wasting too much juice, and I kind of was speeding it up for just the review process because these videos get pretty long. But it only happens because you're putting pressure on the actual tank, so it's kind of spitting some up in there. But it does pretty saturate your wick for you. Okay. So there's actually supposed to be an O-ring in here. I lost it the very first day I had it. So I do get a little bit of leakage out of this screw, but it's very, very minor. Alright, so put the screw right back in there. Nice and snug. Drip tip back on there. And get all this excess juice off of there. And there you go. That is how to properly build and wick and fill your Fogger V4 Plus. And just so you know, this is the exact same build that I'm using throughout the video. I pre-make this before I make the video, so that way you can see this exact build in use throughout the whole video. So there you go, guys. Thanks for sticking around for the whole video and the up-close buildy section of this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you out. I hope you picked one up and enjoyed as much as I'm enjoying this one. So as always, thanks again for watching, everyone, and vape on!